Hello and welcome to Municipal Matters here on your TV, another Zoom edition, joined this time by Municipality of Port Hope Mayor Bob Sanderson. Bob, welcome again. This will be the first question I ask you every time. How are you holding up?
Pretty well. A little rushing around a bit with all these openings and figuring out what people can do and trying to keep up with all the notifications. But very good. We had I think a relatively nice long weekend. People, I think, got to enjoy some of it. It wasn't the best weather, but by the same token, not being the best weather probably helped control things a little bit. So the bottom line is I think I'm holding up well, getting a lot of support. Appreciate that a lot. And I hope I can say the same thing for you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And again, what you say, the bad weather, you really can't do anything about it, except we got a house full of kids. So them being cooped up inside all day on these rainy and cold days aren't very good. But we got some good stretch of weather coming up. And that, too, is important because as we start to go into phase one of reopening, good weather, what are your concerns about what the good weather will do in bringing people out?
Well, I think people will just be tempted to socialize a bit more than they should in groups. We're still, the five or less concept. And, I know some people who went to cottage country and said that's not what they were seeing. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest problem and the concern. People will get together and kind of think they're okay. And everybody needs to get out. We're opening trails. We're trying to help people. But it's a big concern and it's a big discussion internally as well. You can't come down with, the police force and stop everybody, and the education is there. But we've done such a good job in our area, and we have such, lovely places to be together. So that's probably my biggest, concern.
Let's talk about that, the municipal amenities that are open now. Let's talk about things like dog parks, the boat launches, parks, playgrounds. What can people actually do in the municipality of Port Hope?
Well, I just want to reiterate one thing, which is the government can allow things to be open, but it doesn't mean they will open. Right,
Right.
so we did open the marina, and that was a fairly uncomplicated and low risk situation. We're going to open the dog park, but we are trying to get clarification, as to how many people could be in that park. So we don't want to make a mistake, and we want to make sure that people are protected. It might be that we have to place some regulations specifically on the park. In other areas, I think the same thing is going to apply. We're looking at some of our recreation facilities, like the outside ones. It says you can open some of them, but can you have, as an example, play tennis? Can you play pickleball? What does it look like? So we're not going to let that move forward until we have a very clear mandate from the provincial government, but also significant input from our health department. That's probably going to guide us as much as anything. The government can say, you can open, and then we're going to go, what does it take to open safely? And that's how we'll govern ourselves.
It's quite a lot to juggle too. I mean, where the information is coming from. Yes, the government's getting their information from their health officials. We have our local health officials here too, which in some cases the opinions can vary.
Sure. But, the devil's in the detail.
Right.
So they say you can open something, and then they get a whole bunch of questions about this specific items. And it can't be that you kind of come up with all the specific items. So, as an example, does this trailer matter? And that's where the sort of details come out following. And that's where we're paying clear attention. And as I said, we won't open a tennis court if it's not, going to be safe. Is a double safe? Is a single safe? So again, our job is to, certainly from the municipal perspective, make sure that any municipal services that are opened at any level are completely safe. We can't control every private sector, but we'll try to support them as much as we can as well.
What kind of communication? How do you communicate with the health department? And is there a lot of guidance coming from them? And I'm talking about our local health department.
Yep, no, we use Dr. Noseworthy a lot, and we have direct contact, both on a municipal basis, but also we have conference calls, both from our emergency support teams and also from our provincial. We have a provincial sort of jurisdiction with MPP Pacini each week, and the health department's on those calls. Ryan Egger, our fire chief, who's leading this, is in constant contact, not only with the local, but the provincial health bodies as well. So I think we're really have a good dialogue both ways. And as I said, we interpret that if we have a question and have any concern, we're not in a rush to open, although I guess we're in a rush to open because we'd like to open, but
Right.
yeah. But I'm very impressed and very comfortable with the health department, the feedback we got. We opened the Port Hope Farmers Market this weekend on Saturday. I personally was fairly concerned about that because I didn't have all the details. And I got a full rundown from the health department and Dr. Noseworthy, and the opening was exemplary, and it's was kind of nice because we're an agricultural community, and this is the kind of stuff we want to see. It was food only. The Farmers Market Association for Port Hope had it very well regulated, and I subsequently, again, we forget about these people sometimes because I don't know if they're considered front line when you're giving advice from a doctor's perspective or Dr. Noseworthy in that team. But I sent them a note and said they're a critical component here, and they've taken the time to really delve deep. They're not kind of being wishy-washy about it. They really went to bat and said here's all the very specific things the farmer markets need. So I'm seeing a lot of collaboration and a lot of dialogue, and I even from the political perspective, we're rolling up our sleeves and we're right in it.
We have seen some good news for small businesses, how some small businesses can open as long as they do curbside service. How is that rolled out so far in the municipality of Port Hope?
Well, no, I think it's taking a little bit of time to get going, because it's the same thing. I think responsible, retail owners are making sure that they're able to do that well. The online purchasing was probably a little bit ahead in some cases, but I don't think we've really seen the embracement of the curbside and how does that work at this point in time. So I think we'll see improvements, and I think you'll start to see a rally around it. But at this point in time, I think our retailers are still struggling with that. They can only go inside to pay, so
Right.
I don't know, buying a shirt or something is very difficult.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of products that curbside just doesn't seem to work. You want to buy clothes, you want to be able to go in and try them on. One of the other issues that I'm hearing some employers are having is getting their employees to come back. Some just aren't ready yet. They don't feel safe.
I think you make a really good point, and one that we've had discussions about. Again, it goes hand in hand with opening. You can open, but if you don't have consumer confidence in the safety, and the health, and then the staff feels exactly the same. They're not going to come back to work if they feel you haven't done your job as a business owner to protect them. And I think that's not an unusual situation. And I think a lot of employers are specifically working with their employees to make sure they're okay.
Right. Speaking of like employees, we just found out today or this week that students will not be going back to school.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's an opportunity for some small businesses to take advantage of with the high school students that won't be going back. But that whole schools being closed now until the end of June, students not going back into September. How does that affect the municipality, and what concerns do you have there with parents that want to go back to work but can't because they have their kids?
Sure. I think two sides to that. Number one, I support the decision. If I was a parent of young children, I would be quite concerned about it at this point in time, particularly when there's only a short period left. Parents have already been coping with it, and then the online learning. So I think parents tend to be fairly resilient, and I think once the kids can get outside and do some other things as well, I truly think most parents are going to support it and think that that's the right decision. Before it was announced, I know parents who said that even if it comes off, I'm not going to send my children to school. And I think if anything, it's probably hard on the teachers because it's hard to carry on classes this way. So bottom line, I think it's disruptive, but I think it's a decision that would be supported by most parents. And I would also, given what you said about getting back to work and what have you, I think employers are going to work with their employees with that understanding. I mean, what are they going to do in the summer? It's not too much different, but it is a bit significant. So we'll see what the outcome is, just as you said, an announcement for today. But my initial impression, and dialogue before this was, it's the right decision and it'll be supported. And I think most employers and parents will adapt.
It'll become a little bit easier too, as the province has said, once we get into phase two, part of that will be the reopening in some form or another of daycare centers. So that would be a huge relief for a lot of parents that do want to get back to work as well.
And I think we'll get a lot of guidance on what that looks like, and how that works. I mean, look at all our recreation, programs that have been canceled. Are we going to be able to get some back up and running? And how do we, look after the citizens and some of the activities that need to go on? We need to know that they can be managed safely.
And a big factor there is the emergency status that we're in has been extended now till May 29th. And part of that is still no gatherings bigger than 5. So when that changes, it's a big factor as to how far that goes up. Does it go up to 10? Does it go up to 50?
Yeah,
That's going to make a huge difference.
I think, again, restaurants and bars are still closed. So hopefully they're working on how they will be when they're opening. I've talked to several restaurant owners, and they're taking the opportunity to upgrade and make some adjustments for people. There was one restaurant, not locally, but they put mannequins in every other seat. Right?
Well,
So you'd go in and you'd kind of feel like there's not a vacant space. And I thought, this is really good thinking. So I don't know, maybe the mannequin business will be something you want to invest in.
absolutely. One of the things too that could create a little bit of relief is the premier did talk today about the possibility of day camps opening up in July and August. Of course, we got to reach certain numbers before that happens. No overnight camps, but day camps will be a huge relief for parents as well, and for the kids to be able to get out.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Again, it's always going to fall back to how safe, and is the health being looked after, and it's a new world for us all. We're now kind of passing each other carefully and doing stuff, and this is at the sort of the height of the pandemic. But I think these things are going to be of higher concern moving forward. So when you go out, these are going to be standards. So a 5-star restaurant might mean it's 5-star from a safety and health perspective, not just from the food quality or how good it tastes, that kind of stuff. So I think there'll be a lot of changes. But when summer's here, and we're Canadians, we want to be outside and we want to be doing things. And I absolutely am sure when it's open, there'll be a lot of guidelines to make sure that things are good. But they're going to be dependent upon us staying on course and continuing, to keep free of this virus in our area, for sure.
Business continues in the municipality as well. I want to talk about that, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll get to that when we come back after the break here on Your TV. Welcome back to Municipal Matters here on Your TV. I'm York Bellsmith. We're Zooming with Municipality of Port Hope Mayor Bob Sanderson. Bob, let's talk about some stuff that's been going on in the municipality with or without the COVID-19 pandemic, and that is the Port Hope Area Initiative. What is the status of that, where we are now?
It's effectively shut down. They decided that they would shut down for a period of time, and they're now in the process of getting ramped up to reopen. And they are, because it's CNL, it's not just Port Hope, they have other sites as well. So they've put a lot of time and energy into making sure that they can start up properly. The first thing will be to reopen the repository areas so that they can deposit material. The next thing is to look at the sites that they can handle as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. So they're probably going to be the larger sites. The smaller sites will probably have to wait a little bit. And I haven't had this conversation with them, but all businesses, including construction businesses, they're putting 2 or 3 times the resources into getting the same job done, because they have to have distancing. People have to be in different trucks, etc. So that is slowly, and I commend them for taking that initiative. They felt they should do that. They didn't need to, by the way. The government didn't shut them down. They voluntarily did that. Now they're also ramping back up to reopen, but they're going to do it slowly. They're not going to rush it. But we're in fairly constant contact and being updated, from that perspective. The project's going to proceed. It might be longer timelines, but that's been something that the community's been dealing with over a period of time. But what I do like it is that they're looking after their staff very well. They're looking after the entire community in many respects. The other part of it is they aren't sitting and twiddling their thumbs. They're continuing with all their research and what they need to do for assessments and what have you. So they're doing a lot of work on engineering, designing, and all that kind of stuff. You may not see the trucks rolling around, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Well, this actually, when you talk about it that way, is a great opportunity to get all of that planning stuff done. Things work out better when you got a solid plan. If you could focus on that, especially at the stage where we've gotten to now, I'm sure they've run into some things that, or can foresee some things that they need to address. They can take care of all that now, and then when they do get back up and running, whatever that's going to look like, they'll be off to a better start.
And that's an excellent point, and that's one that's being brought up because they had reached a point in the project where it's fairly extensive and in small sites, and they were running into some challenges. And to try to correct the challenges in midstream while you're working on it all is a little bit harder. So they have definitely been taking those lessons and challenges and looking for solutions. And I can validate that for sure because we have that dialogue with them on a regular basis. Our municipal team, led by Sue Bernardi, is in constant discussions as our peer review is. So we're looking at the solutions they're bringing forward, and we're having time to look at them without the mad rush too. It unfortunately does affect people who would normally be working who may not be, contractors, subcontractors, and we're giving some attention to that to see how we can make sure that those who are in our community aren't suffering too badly as a result of this shutdown.
Well, that's the residual effects of all of these shutdowns. How it spreads out really drastically.
It is like a house of cards. I mean, the construction business is a prime example. Now you can get back into some construction, but it reverberated all down the line to suppliers and contractors and subcontractors. And you don't kind of really realize it until you stop one thing, and the whole thing has to stop. And then the whole thing has to start again. That can take a bit of time.
Right. And that's not the only construction going on in the municipality. Construction has opened back up again, which is going to present some challenges as well, especially with things coming back behind schedule.
Well, I can tell you one of the good things is pretty much all the municipal projects that we approved and budgeted for, are on track. Whether it be the the roofing on Town Hall, which again, was a bit of a blessing because we're not going in and out of it, so that's being done. Pemberton Road's being done. Lakeshore Road, which really needed a lot of work done, is underway. And now we have private contractors back into getting building permits again. These are kind of not noticed necessarily, but I know other municipalities in my discussions with them, they've not been able to proceed with some of the projects. And our team has, I don't think we've missed a beat, probably a little bit of delay here and there, but we've been kind of, I think, very fortunate. We have a good team, and we're protecting our people but still getting the job done. I mean, we had our council meeting today, as an example, and we're back on a regular schedule.
Well, yeah, because the business of the municipality doesn't stop, right? And there are other issues, as we've been talking about, that council still has to address.
Well, and a lot, and there's adjustments to the current situation. Some of them financial, deferring some taxes when needed, trying to support, having discussions about, what can we do, to assist. And then on the other hand, we get residents who say, well, if we're not getting all these services, we should get a tax break. Go. Sometimes in the chair, it doesn't matter which side you sit on, you're gonna get it. So, in this case, people aren't getting the service they should get, like using the parks, but the tax revenues are going to be diminished this year. I don't care what anybody thinks. They're actually going to not be in great shape.
It's going to take a lot more work than usual with the next budget coming out, because who knows what's going to happen going forward.
Well, I think that's a big key. We don't know, the longer term. Some businesses are going to go out of business. Some people are going to, have to relinquish their debt. So there will be an adjustment, but I give a lot of credit to, again, our staff. we're in pretty good shape from a structural perspective, and we're getting regular updates as to predicted outcome. And the same thing I would say for the county as warden. The county's going to be doing a fairly good reporting process on the impact of COVID-19, and there's some up parts, and that's thanks to government support for some social services and those kind of things. So the, the overall government is going to have to recoup at some point in time. On a municipal level, I think we're providing just excellent service through this, and I hope that the finances for the next budget year will be manageable. We don't have to fix it all in 1 year. If we'd have to take a couple of years to gradually get back on our feet, which I think we probably do, we need to give people time to get their bank accounts back in and all that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. The fact that Cameco's UF6 plant is going to be reopening, they announced back on April the 8th that they were shutting it down, but they are going to resume production.
Yeah, and their concern, and we had conversations with them as well, is that they wanted to make sure that they could continue consistent production safely. And like many places, well, Coburg declared an emergency because they had some staffing, constraints that would come about. And that's probably the biggest concern that Cameco had, was to make sure that their employees are safe, that production, is not jeopardized, and that there's no, significant impact from that perspective. And now that they see the level of safety measures, not only that, but their staff, as kind of you mentioned earlier, they want to make sure your staff is okay to come back. They want to come back. And so Cameco handled their situation, I think, extremely well.
You talk about staff coming back. You also have the, like summer students that work for the municipality. What's the status of that for? I don't even know if you can answer that for this summer. What is the status of that for now?
Well, for now, some aren't going to come back, but we're having those discussions as we speak, because as we can open up some more recreational facilities and what have you, and even our flower beds and our grasses and what have you. We're hoping that we'll get a significant number of students back, although they will probably be late. The fly in that ointment is, they might be getting paid more at home than coming to work these days. So there's two sides of it. They need the support. But I think from our perspective, I mean, we'll be okay. We can't have all the students back for sure for as long, but we would definitely like to have them back, and we're going to make every effort to get as many back as possible.
You bring up a very good point there of people being able to make possibly more money by staying at home with the government relief. That's got to affect some of the businesses as well in hiring people back that would be part-time.
Well, I think so, and I, hope and believe and understand that that is part of the discussion, but it's also, again, my opinion, to be a little bit on the safe side, so people are okay. I'm sure there'll be some abuse, at some levels, and maybe some incentive not to go back to work, but I truly believe that I'd rather be a little bit, careful on that side than see people really go into a bad situation. We can fix the good stuff later, but if we don't look after, the employees and the students and what have you, that's going to have long-term, an impact. And my understanding is even the university students are not going to go back in September. They're going to have online learning. And as you said, it's a house of cards. I'm not sure where it stops. Yeah.
Yep, they said school's not going to look the same come September. The province is going to reveal a plan for what public schools are going to look like by the end of June. So that's going to affect things going forward as well. One good thing that's come out of this that I've noticed is the cooperation between all levels of government. And you've got a great relationship with our MP and our MPP, Philip Lawrence and David Piccini. Let's talk a little bit about working together and how the communication lines between the three levels have helped.
Well, between the three levels, but also to some level nonpartisan, which I think is as important. And both our elected officials in that area are very constituency orientated, and certainly because Ontario MPP Piccini has been just an instrumental support advocate of things. And every week we do have a session, and he takes his input and he takes it back into, and we see results coming out. A lot of hard work, but it's a relationship that has grown as a result. It would be a good relationship independent of this, But this has certainly, put everybody, in on the same plate and requiring a lot of dialogue. And whether you're, a liberal or a conservative, I hear our MP, praising the current government for a lot of actions, and also putting input where he thinks it, should be improved. And our MPP, I don't know where he's got the energy, but he's doing a lot. He's all over it, and he's definitely a strong advocate for our municipality. And a lot is happening. I mean, he was instrumental, as an example, looking into some of the homeless situation and wading in on those. So the relationship, and the other relationship, we argue that's very good, is between the municipalities. I think it's
Right.
brought, all the municipalities, certainly under his jurisdiction, together, because now we're seeing people from Clarington and Peterborough on the call, as well. So we're getting to know people we might not have, and we're being listened to. I truly think that, and when we do this task force and we start to get some input, into the government, people have been a little bit skeptic. I mean, you get, bit too many times, you don't believe it. But I truly believe that we're going to have a very good input and that there'll be good output.
The cooperation has absolutely been fantastic, and even between the county mayors as well. It's been really impressive to see everybody coming together and working together. So if there's something that's good has come out of this, then we have it. Bob, thank you very much. Can't wait to chat again here on Zoom. You've been
Thank you very
watching
much.
Municipal Matters here on your TV. I'm your host, York Bellsmith. We'll see you next time.